So, not a lot has happened since the last time I did this, but the things and the magnitude of the things that have happened has been great. First of all, the support on the last video, my first video, was incredible. I couldn't have expected the amount and the depth of the appreciation and the love that I felt from that. One thing I realized is that, as I said in the video, I was anxious about how things would be received, and this entire notion of stepping out into the world. But in doing so, I found a big sense of relief. To draw an analogy, if let's say there's a pool, right, and this pool is dark, you can't see the bottom, and it looks very deep. Looks cold, no one's in there. You know this pool has a reputation for drowning people. So, and you don't swim that well yourself. Here come all the jokes about a black man in a swimming pool. And so you of course are anxious to jump in. But after some self-doubt and an internal monologue, you do jump in. And once you do jump in and your head is submerged underwater, you come up again, then you realize the pool wasn't dark. It was clear all the time. And when you come up, you are surrounded by friends. You're surrounded by people that don't want nothing but to help you. They give you floaties and they hold your arms so you can, tread safely through the water. And that is what the video was for me. I realized that there are so many people out there that just want to support someone who puts themselves out to the world. So thank you for that. Second of all, I tore my hamstring. I think it was literally the day after I recorded, the day after I recorded. I recorded upper and then I ruptured, I tore my hamstring on lower. It was a pretty bad tear, but it wasn't a rupture. There is no discoloration yet. I am a black man though, so for it to be discoloration, a lot has to happen. So discoloration is not something that happens lightly as a black man. So I'll insert a video here. It's not graphic. You can't see the working leg being torn. It's the off leg. And it was also on rep 2, so it's a bit what it is. These tears have become very frequent for me. So I believe that I'm a master now at the rehabilitation of these tears. So take you through that. But one thing I wanted to, drop my thoughts around is what I did after the tear. The day prior to this, I'd listened to, the podcast that is driven by arguably the two greatest minds in at least Northern Europe. And what they said there is, basically that your actions need to align with your goals. Or they don't, and you don't reach your goals. And that's just what it is. And so I tore my hamstring and I thought, what can I do? I can't RDL. I can't curl. I can't leg press, and I probably can't even leg extend. But I could do my 2 bicep sets, my 2 bicep movements, so I did them. And then I got home. It was slow and it was painful, but I got home. I cooled it down, and I thought, well, my brain works, my hands and my fingers work. So I sat down and edited some things from the upper session, extracted some reels for Instagram. So I did that. And I thought again, yeah, my brain works, my fingers work. So I went into J3U and I researched and I recapped the roles of IGF-1 in skeletal muscle and connective tissue, and some more as well. And then I got hungry. I thought that, well, my goals haven't changed, and I'm hungry. I want to eat. So I ate what I was supposed to eat. I didn't eat off plan. I didn't, drift off and do something crazy that I would regret later on. I just did what I want to do. And then I looked up my steps and I realized I had 5,000 steps to go. And this hamstring was pretty bad. I could limp, not properly walk, but I could limp. And I thought again that, well, the goal here is to get 12,000 steps. I can get 12,000 steps. It'll be slow, it'll be painful, but it's doable. So I did that. And when I got home and it was approaching bedtime, I thought that, well, my goals haven't changed. I know that sleep is my number one recovery tool. So I go to bed and I did all things that go into routine. What I want to say here is that just because you have one minor inconvenience doesn't mean that you piss off the entire day. I think that many people, something happens and they think, next day. But no, there's so many things that you're always in control over. There's so many inputs that will ultimately lead to the output. You're always in control. Don't be a victim. One thing that the great Martin Luther King said, I doubt that this is what he meant, and it is a bit grandiose for the context, but he said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving forward. And so you can't hamstring curl, right, but you can bicep curl. You can't walk properly, okay, we'll limp. You can't do this, we'll do that. Never be a victim. Always be true to yourself and to your own goals. So, enough with the ranting. Today I'll be training push. I'll be in the dungeon the entire time. So the quality will be as it is right now, hopefully, the entire time. Hope you enjoy the episode. Let's get stuck into it. One thing about training in, best gym in Sweden is that it's painful. You get to see everyone come into this gym and they don't know what's at their fingertips. No idea. No idea about the amount of work that the gym owner, Alex, has put in. No idea about the time, the money, the passion for it all. And they stomp in here and then they just either disregard the equipment completely or they just disrespect the equipment completely. It's almost infuriating. It's the mess it up speaking. It's Geriatrician. Use code WR10 at checkout to save some cash. I have vacation. I can go to bed anytime I want to. I can wake up anytime I want to. I can do whatever I want with my days. But last night I went to bed at 7:15. I woke up today at 4:20. Took 3,000 steps, fasted, ate my pre-workout meal, waited a bit, prepared some stuff. I was at the gym, 6:15. And it's all because I want to. I could do anything with my life. I know that there are so many other things that have a much better ROI than this, that are much more healthy. There's much more room for monetary success and fame. But that's not what I've chosen. That's not what my heart has chosen. It's this. And so I owe it to myself to take it all the way. I owe it to myself to not only adhere, but to do the best that I can every single day. I could be in the Caribbean, could be in Trinidad, could be in the UK, could be in fucking Asia. But this is where I want to be. Now is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. Oh! The goal here is to make this microphone, entrenched between the pecs. One thing that I think is extremely valuable, to everyone, is to really set strength goals in off-season. I said that I don't want to speak about redundant stuff, but some things are so important that it's okay if it's redundant. There's no amount of speaking of strength progression that'll make it obsolete. It's so important. I think that, of course, the main driver of hypertrophy is progressive overload, mechanical tension. But more than that, I think that setting very clear strength goals has such a, to be both objective and to have some sort of nuanced subjectivity. I think that having strong and very set strength goals has such a large part. I think that having very clear set strength goals has such a large influence on your psyche. I think that individual that sees this being 5 plates for his top set, the way that he wakes up, attacks his day, the way that he goes through his routine is completely different to someone that just comes in and trains, who just trains his pec, who trains his back. I think that having these clear goals, it creates the type of mentality that you need to have in order to make the most progression in the shortest amount of time. But don't get lost in it. Don't get lost in it. a lot of people speak about different ratios on the prime, whether it's load on the length and the mid peg. No one who really knows what they're talking about speaks about the short peg, unless for like rehabilitation purposes. But at the end of the day, it's all individual. I know some guys who could load everything on the mid peg throughout the entire session, the pit bull. And others, their oomph fades extremely quickly. So I've had this dialogue with the greatest mind in, as I said, at least Northern Europe. And we have come to the conclusion that it must be race specific. It must be something with fast twitch, muscle, fiber dominance, and the oomph fading very quickly. And so most of the times, I'll favor length and loading in the prime. Not only because of what it does to hypertrophy, but what it does to my ability to output. Because as I said, maybe the first set of the first exercise I can load mostly short. But everything after that, it's at least skewed towards the lengthened, or if not entirely in the lengthened. So there is right and wrong, but the right and wrong depends on the individual and the context. So with this said, it's important to not be discouraged. With it being all lengthened loaded, it will feel insurmountable. It'll feel immovable. But just stick with it. Output into the upper back pad. And just keep driving. Don't be discouraged. Attack the set. About what I said before, about owing it to yourself, and your actions going in line with your goals. I feel that one of the most important things to always remember is that you are in control. You always have a choice. When someone has a gun to your head and they want to end your life, you can choose whether you want to, go out as you came into this world, screaming, crying. Or you can, quotes, take it like a man, unquote. You always have a choice. You have a choice of where life is going. You have a choice of what you want to happen and where you want to end up with your life. And that choice comes down to the choices we make every single day. It comes down to when you wake up. Do you snooze? Do you lay around? Do you, get to doing? What do you do? At which intensity do you do it? Do you do this every single day, or just on the days where you feel up for it? All of it's your choice. Where you live, what you do, how much you earn, who you're with, who you're not with, what you do, what you don't do. Everything is in your choice. Everything's within your power to change. So do or don't. feel like this YouTube is not good for me. I can feel myself becoming like Kai. Kai, how's the weather? You know, a normal person would answer, it's a bit hit and miss. Kai would answer. You know, the conflicting weather reminds me of the conflicting paradigm shift in my mind. It's like, Kai, we asked you about the weather. It's not good. So these, to get into some specific training programming programs and needs, these 3 sets are a reflection of the needs, but also the environment. I mean, one could speak about the term more is more, which it is. More is more until it isn't. And the ceiling for how much room you have until it isn't is dependent on a few things. You know, both energy balance, mainly energy balance, you know, recovery capabilities, but also race. I think that anecdotally it does have some value that more is more for a very long time when it comes to certain individuals. The ceiling is very high. And so that is what we'll do. And we have had a very good run of growth the last couple of weeks, months, like month and a half. And I've noticed a very big improvement in my pecs and my upper line as a whole. We've increased the volume. We've even added some intensifiers, some partials, if you like to call them that. And more is more. So we run with it until more is it more, and then we'll back off. But again, don't get too fixed in you can't do this, you can't do that. Everything is always individual response. So trial, gauge it, and then make decisions from there. Another thing about I said before, cameras next to the pec deck, so that's why I'm thinking of it, is that spending time in the short spending time in the short isn't an alternative. At that point, I think it was the second or the third set of the pec deck. But as you note, I am spending some time in the short end in this pec fly. You know, some could ask why, some don't. But to the ones who ask why, what is relevant in the context is not only the time you spend in the short end, but the amount of loading that you're exposed to in the short end. In the pec fly, I consider that movement very even, as in the torque you're exposed to is the same in the short end as it is in the length end. But you're obviously weaker in the short end, you get progressively weaker as the sets go on. Which is why spending time in the short for someone as myself, especially, becomes less and less of a viable option. Whereas here, we're in the stretch, they will be loading very heavily from a 90-degree angle with the cable and your upper arm. But as you get into the shorts position, the cable will be more or less stacked with your arm so the tension going through your arm, going through your pecs will be minimum. That being said, you will still be in a shortened pec position, which will inevitably create a mind-muscle connection. And that does have some value. Again, a very luddig topic, a topic that is very difficult to put your finger on what actually is going on and what actually has value. That being said, one doesn't always have to have the answers or the explanations as to why. What is valuable is what we see in front of us and what we've seen others do. This very, commonly said saying, success leaves clues. I often feel it's pretty minimizing, but there's some value to it. Success does leave clues. And if we can have a set where we have maximal internal stimulus, maximum mind-muscle connection, and a set where we have none at all, and the output is the same or very similar, then the obvious winner is the first one. So keep that in mind. Dead. So I didn't shoot an outro last time around, but I'm figuring that I'll do it here. And happy with the session. Went really well. As I said, minor roadblock, but the roadblock doesn't change our goal. It might change how you get there, but if anything, it should mean that you double down into your process and that you try to do everything even better. One roadblock doesn't mean that we, mess up the entire day. Doesn't mean that we mess up our week. Doesn't mean that we, drift off and do something stupid. And sometimes, we're faced with trials and tribulations that are good for our development. They make us question who we are in a positive way, and they can change where we're headed in a positive way. It's character building. But sometimes roadblocks are not roadblocks that are meant to change your direction. They're just roadblocks that you're meant to get around. And this is one of those. So just lock into the process. I want to keep a high frequency with the videos in this channel, at least initially, to be able to get some traction. And there's exciting things around the corner. And we'll see how quickly this hamstring gets better, but I'm figuring that I at some point wanted to speak about the rehab process, about what Martin Luther King said, which I will, because I think that has that has a lot of value, and not just because that it has value, but because it's something that's not spoken about that often. I know that Jordan says sometimes, but for some reason it doesn't stick to many people. So if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by any means, keep moving forward. And I'll leave with that. Hope you have a nice day. Hope you have a nice weekend. And see you guys in the next one.